Hey you all, this is part two. So right now I'm at one of my jobs as we speak. Nothing really going on right now, so I just want to just do this video really quick, well maybe not so quick. This is part two of the first video that I did a couple days ago that was 30 minutes long. Hopefully this one is shorter. I don't think it will be, but we're going to get into it. So the other side of things, so along with all that sort of mentioned with the job stuff previously, I've also been a bit depressed as far as like feeling like I'm alone. And I've had like a lot of trouble making friends too. One of the things that has been hard about making friends is finding people that kind of fit your personality or can balance you out. I am a heavy extrovert. I definitely do talk a lot. I am very social. That being said, that could be overwhelming for like a lot of people, and it's also hard to find people that can match that to somewhat of like a balanced level. It's just been really hard because a lot of people you'll find, especially like if they don't talk a lot, but not even that, if they're not like interesting to me enough for me to want to like continue things, then they're just an acquaintance, and that's fair, honestly. But I do kind of feel like to some degree, like you do have to tolerate, like sometimes when you're making friends, you kind of gotta take the good with the bad and the bad with the good. Excuse me. You gotta take the good with the bad and the bad with the good. You can't really just be like, I want all these good things and I don't want any of the bad that comes with it. And it goes vice versa for me. Anybody that I'm dealing with, friendship or whatever, I have to be willing to accept those bad parts of them. Now, I don't mean I don't call you out if stuff ain't right, but I can't be somebody that's like, you have to only be all these good things that I see about you, but you can't have any flaws. Like, that's just not realistic. And I feel like a lot of people sometimes they don't know how to like deal with people's flaws. So to them, it's kind of like, if it's even a little off, they're like, I don't really want to deal with it, and that's not good. Like a true friendship, any relationship in your life, you're going to have bad things of a person that you don't like, but you have to be willing to come to a middle ground where you're like, I don't like this thing, but at the same time, I love you, and that's all that matters. And I'm not going to lie to you, it just hasn't been the easiest thing for me to accept sometimes as far as that. Because like I just previously mentioned, I also have things that I want to, and sometimes with me being very social and me being able, not really having a problem answering the phone or texting my friend after like a stressful day at work, I'm more able to answer my phone and able to text people more than others, especially like for some of my introvert friends that I do have. It's easier for them to want to pick up the phone. It's harder for them to want to pick up the phone, and they have different boundaries with that. And for a while, I never understood it. I'm like, what is so hard about answering the phone? Like, I just never understood it because it wasn't really explained to me. And not that anybody is required to explain stuff to me, because nobody ever is. We're all adults here. Nobody's required to do anything. But for me, like, I do better with understanding and respecting people's boundaries when I understand why a boundary or why something is the way that it is. I feel like when I don't know about it, it gives it in my brain, in my mind, in my way of psychology, it gives me room to make assumptions about somebody or have really bad thoughts about somebody when it's not really the case for something that they can't control. And I just do better with it overall when I understand. So once I kind of understand, like I feel like, or when something is explained to me, I feel like I can respect the boundary and I can understand it. That's why I'm trying not to name drop here, but this actually isn't a bad thing to name drop. My friend Darnell, like he told me he can't always contact me all the time or certain times because he's working or he's tired from working. And I'm like, that's actually fair. I get that. I just don't always, and that's why I respect that boundary with him, and I don't feel offended when he doesn't answer because I know why. But other people that say like are kind of newer to my life or aren't always as good at communicating don't always tell me, so like it kind of gives me room to assume, and I'm not supposed to assume, but as a human being with feelings, I'm gonna think that you're like ignoring me, and I'm like, why can't you just respond? It's not that hard. But again, everybody has a level to how they want to socialize, how they want to get stuff done, how they want to like communicate. And that's completely understandable. It's just that for me, in order for me to really understand, to really respect, and I mean, I have to respect people's boundaries no matter what, but for me to really like actually get it in and out, because for me to really like do stuff, I have to understand it in and out. So for me to fully respect people's boundaries at all times and really like relate with it, I have at some point in time. I like to. You don't have to even tell me everything, but I just like to know just something light, even if it's kind of general, just something that's the kind of like why I shouldn't do something. Again, no one's required to do anything, but it's just like for me, I do better. I find that I do better with boundaries and understanding people's wants and needs when it's explained to me, so that way I know how to approach it better. So that way I don't feel any kind of way, and I don't make assumptions unfairly. Forgive me if I keep pausing. These people keep coming in and out. And then I gotta keep looking around me because I'm like freaking paranoid with this job. Because Lord knows you don't pay attention, they want to fire you. They're like, oh, you fell asleep in the bathroom for 2 hours. We gotta move you from the site. All right, good. Message taken. Won't do it again. People want to watch everything. I'm like, damn, this economy too rough to be doing that. But, anyways, what was I saying? Oh yeah, we were talking about the friend thing because that was really important. Yeah, I just do better when like I understand what people's boundaries are, and on top of that too, I want to have like I don't want to say I'm like really aspiring to it because I kind of feel like it'll get there when it gets there. But like, I would like to have a friend group one day where like I can do everything with. Like I feel like I have friends I can just do one thing with. I have friends I can do two things with. But I want friends that like can do a lot more than one thing, and that's something I just don't have enough of. And I'm not ungrateful for the friendships I have. I am happy and very grateful for the friendships I had, because when I was in grade school, I didn't have any of that. I was very alone, and I just faced a lot of like negative stuff in grade school. Hold on, I'm gonna pause for one more second because I want to read this. And I also found that like the best way for me to have longer lasting friendships, or to even have anything, is to kind of do like the slow burn method, where like just take things slow and just let things get deeper. It does vary from person to person, because there are some people I talk to where it's kind of easy to start revealing things about myself, but typically the slow burn method is kind of the way to go. Like I gotta give people time to get to know me, because you don't really know how you never know what people. You never know. It's like the littlest thing could set them off. So like it's just good to do like the little slow burn method. But I've just had trouble like over the years having a long lasting friendship, and it's not because people be cutting me off, but it's more like we drift apart from each other because we're too busy, or our personality and interest doesn't mesh. And for me, I don't know about you, but like, this might be a controversial take, but for me, in order for me to stay friends with someone for like a long time, we have to have something in common, or like something that we can relate with in some way. Well, relate with, but also have something in common that we enjoy. And I feel like if that's not there, the friendship's not going to last, because you have to do more than treat me right. Like, yeah, I respect that you treat me right. I respect that you are a good person and that you're nice to me. That's what I want. But that's like, it's kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of like someone being your parent to you, being a good parent to you. Like, yeah, that's you're my parent. Yeah, you're not doing nothing wrong, but that's what you're supposed to do. It's like, as a friendship, that's like the bare minimum. Like, you got to do more than the bare minimum. You also got to be able to be somebody that I don't always have to depend on you for everything, but you gotta be somebody that I'm like, I can go to when I'm not having a great day, and I can confide in you for comfort. And vice versa. Like, it's not just one-sided with me, right? The person I'm friends with has to also see that in me too. Like, I gotta be somebody where I'm like, if you message me one day and say you're going through it, I should be somebody that should want to uplift you and be like, things will get better, or whatever I need to tell you for you to feel more empowered. Like that's what friends do. A real friend would like uplift you and be there for you when times, are tough. Not be there and kind of like be like, okay, you're going through it. Too bad. Like that's not a good friend. That's not a good friend to me. A good friend would be there to uplift you and want to be there for you. Not ignore you every which way. Which again, you have to tread lightly with because sometimes people aren't actually ignoring you. It's more like they're busy or they're tired and they can't really respond to your message. So that's something to distinguish right there. I also want to be prepared for when I do have friendships that things are not always going to be good. Sometimes I am going to have conflict with people, and I am going to have to have moments that are not so great. One of my things sometimes with having friendships is I'm just very scared to have conflict. I'm just scared to get in an argument. I'm scared to do anything because I do worry that might affect the longevity of the friendship because again, I worked hard for my friendships and I have a lot of, trauma with friends and losing them and drifting apart and being ignored. Like I just have attachment issues with that shit. So I don't want to lose any of that off of anything. So I do my damnedest to make sure I treat everybody right in my friendships. But also I have to be prepared that I'm gonna have conflict. We're not gonna see eye to eye on stuff. There's gonna be days I don't understand you, and I would ask if you elaborate. And if you don't want to elaborate, that is completely fine. I'll give you your space. But there's days I'm like, our personalities are going to clash. Things are not always going to be pretty, and that's stuff that sometimes scares me because, I'm just a person. I'm like, I want everything in my life to always go smooth. And I want to be accountable for everything that happens. I want to be the person that is not known for anything crazy going on. It's like he keeps it together, but that's just not always the case. That's not realistic. Life happens. We all mess up, and people fade out. Things fade out. Nothing is ever guaranteed. So it's just good to just be prepared to have the conflict. It's a couple people in my life that I was especially because they're my long-term friends. Usually my long-term friends, I see all their emotions in and out. I've seen them when they're happy. I've seen them when they're sad. I've seen them when they're angry. And the other emotions that I haven't explained. But those are kind of the top three. And see how people treat you when they have those thoughts. I feel like that's also very important that I think people don't think about enough. When people say they're angry at somebody, how do they treat that person when they're angry at them? Do they talk badly of them? Are they, that's my headphone notifications for the battery. Do they talk highly of them when they're gone? Do they express how they feel in a healthy way? Those are things you want to look for in a friendship. And I feel like a lot of the time as people, we kind of be friends with people because they make us feel good, but we don't think about, well, how do they treat others? How do they treat people when they're not getting their way? How do they talk about people that they're no longer friends with? Those are things that you should definitely think about and not overlook because that could, you never know, that could be you. What if you do something that person don't like? What are they going to do when you mess up? Because that can make a huge difference between just somebody that you call a friend and somebody that's a really good friend. That's a huge difference in all of that. Also, I wanted to say I did have some thoughts on the music industry, as an independent artist. And I'm going to be very honest with you, it has been nothing but tough these few years. Because for one, I have a love-hate relationship with music where it's days I love writing songs, and there's days I'm just I don't really feel like writing this. And the biggest problem with the music industry or having to do music as an artist, you have to have the money for it. The studio is freaking expensive. Now the current with my current producer with Tucker, studio sessions are $70 an hour, so that's not really that high as far as cost compared to what it would be for other people. But the thing is, Tucker, he plays multiple instruments, and he's also a singer, and he also writes songs. And mind you, it's $70 for like basically everything, all services. So like it could be a studio session where we work on like an old song together in 70 an hour, just like it would be a studio session where we're just writing songs in that 70 an hour. So it's kind of all the same, but I get a lot of value out of him as, you know, as a producer and engineer that he is, where like we could work on songs together, and we just work on them for like the 3-hour session, and we get a lot done. And he's very good at everything. Like he's just a person, like he's good at everything and gives very good feedback. He's not one to boost my ego, which is good. Sometimes it's a bad thing, because some days, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'll be feeling myself and I'm like, I want to hear him the best of all time, and he's not gonna do that. But some, you know, again, he will give you criticism where need be, and you know, I like that. I appreciate that about him. I also forgot to add, you can mix and master as well, which is very important for when you're a musician, because you want your stuff to sound professional. You want your stuff to sound polished. You don't want to like release something and it sounds like it was done in one day. Like one thing about me and Tucker, our projects or anything we worked on never sounds like it never sounds bad, never sounds like it was done in one day. And something I notice sometimes when you work with these producers in Philly, they're not always the right fit for every artist that they come across. Like somebody like me, I want to do pop, but I want to do different genres too. I don't want to just do like one genre. And someone like Tucker, he just has experience with every genre, so he knows how to make stuff sound good and not sound like rushed or sound like he's never done it before, if that makes sense. And that's just something that I just respect about him so much. And honestly, I do love him a lot. I feel like I don't have many friends like that I talk to outside of my current group, but he's one of those ones where I'm like, actually, if he wasn't so busy all the time, I actually would love to hang out with him a lot more. It is kind of hard though, because the problem with me and Tucker, and it ain't even like a bad thing, it's just our schedules are so different from each other. Like he's a producer, but he also is an engineer, but he also does like construction stuff too on the side. And he also does gigs, and he travels around the US a lot. So he doesn't really, me and him, while my schedule, I do security jobs overnight. I also do like front desk jobs overnight. So it's like I do different stuff, but I just don't always have the time. I mean, I have maybe more of the time to do certain stuff, but then he doesn't really have as much time to do his things either. So it's like our lives are just very different from each other as far as like schedule wise and availability. So it's like the only time I ever really get to spend time with this man is really when we're kind of doing like a studio session that we plan together. Someday this week I will be going to the studio, so that'll be good. I won't say what day for safety reasons, but it's like, you know, I can't wait to see him this week, you know, because I haven't seen him in like a while, but our lives are just very different from each other. So it's just very hard for us to really hang out, even though the intention is there, but it's like the execution isn't there just because our lives are very different. And the thing about like people, like not even just him as a producer, but like anybody that has like an open-ended type of job that isn't considered like a normal job, they have a lot of things that a lot of disadvantages with that. Like, yeah, they get to be more open sometimes, but the problem is they don't, like, see, with a typical 9 to 5, you get like a PTO. Hold on, my apologies. With a typical 9 to 5, you get a PTO. You might receive benefits or like health insurance and stuff like that. When you're like something like a producer or entrepreneur or some kind of like alternative open-ended type of job where you kind of work at your own pace, that's not considered like a normal 9 to 5. And that's a lot of jobs that could be. It's not just producer or anything like that. It's a lot of jobs. You don't really get the chance to like really properly take a break like you normally would. Even YouTube content creator. So, and you also got to do your own taxes too. So it's a very different life than like somebody that is an accounting director or an account manager or what other job? A human resource manager. It's different from jobs like that. Or or an architect for that matter. Well, maybe architect might be in the alter. I don't know. I don't know much about that, so maybe not the best example. But you get the point. Like, it's different from a typical 9 to 5, where like you clock in at a job and then clock out. It's very different from that. So it's also even harder for him to take time to schedule a hangout, because on top of him having, I don't even know, this might be personal, I don't know, but I mean, ain't nothing bad. I don't know, maybe probably won't say it here, but like, just paying for things, I'll just say paying for stuff daily is a lot more, how would I put it? Just having money for stuff is a lot more unpredictable as well, versus somebody that has a 9 to 5 where you can like manage your finances and do certain stuff. So it's just very unpredictable. So that's all I'll say with that. But I absolutely love Tucker, and I love the music we do together. But I wish I could hang out with him more. And yeah, being an independent artist is hard. And then the other thing I want to add to that too, doing collaborations with other artists has also been very challenging too. There's so many people in this industry where I'm like, you sing so well and they're so talented, right? But they don't want to work with me. And I'm like, I want to work with you, but they don't want to work with me. And everybody has different, levels to that, how they want to go about the music industry. Some people just want to just sing because they just want to sing. They're not looking to be a musician or anything like that, or release an album like I am. But it also is just very frustrating because you're just like, dang, you're so talented, I want to work with you. And then they show enthusiasm to it, and then you DM each other, and then next thing you know, you guys aren't DMing each other anymore because he unfollowed you. And I've had that happen. I've been unfollowed. Even though he said he wouldn't mind working with me and was excited. So it did crush my soul a little bit. It also did add to my depression a little bit, because I kind of felt like, damn, why does anyone want to work with me? Like, I'm this passionate singer. I want to make an album, I want to do stuff, but I can't really get anybody to work with me. I feel like it has to be somebody that really wants to do it and is really adamant about it. I've had like one person that wants to work with me, so that's good. That's honestly good. But again, it's just very few and far in between. And that's kind of why, like, I might just want to do a lot more solo, like, songs in the future. As much as I want to do collaborations, and I don't mind doing them, it has to be, the other artist has to want to do them with me. It can't just be I want to do them and then you don't want to do it, and then you don't really want to do it with me, or you're giving half. It's like, I don't like stuff like that. Either be all in or don't be in at all. I feel like it's like a respectful thing to do, especially because it's a lot of money and time into this. And, respect people's time is all I'll say. Next part, I want to talk about politics and how out of control they've gotten. So it's been really frustrating, like on the news, just seeing all the politics on social media, the amount of homophobia, transphobia I've seen. And part of the reason, if you ever seen my apology, like in the community posts, I came at someone I shouldn't have, one of my friends I shouldn't have, and I feel really bad. I since took the video and the stream down because out of respect for him, because he doesn't deserve that. He's literally like one of my best friends in the world, my saving grace. I would never want anyone to feel like that, and I do not look at that person as a transphobe at all. I was just so fired up. And part of the reason I was so fired up is because every day, especially with Trump, I gotta keep hearing about this man every day. Like how much he wants to change the U.S., the policies, getting rid of DEI, not allowing trans men and trans women to be able to have, their current gender on their passports. They have to have their birth gender. Like, seeing all that stuff and then seeing people's opinions about it is very triggering. And someone like me who is LGBT, who does identify as bisexual, like, I have a problem with that. Seeing that every day. And growing up, that was another part of it. I had to face that a lot, like homophobia all the time. I remember it was a valet job. I had to face homophobia with like men reporting me behind my back, saying that I was sexually dancing and all this stuff. And I'm like, I would never do that to somebody, not at the job. And I would never even put myself out there like that, because that's a lot of balls. But those are the things I've dealt with. And it's like, it's just very triggering for me to see this online. And Another one, I forgot to mention this with my friends thing, kind of a boundary I have, or an assumption that I have is what I was trying to say, especially when it comes to straight men, straight white men particularly, is that they could be very homophobic, they could be very racist, they could be, whatever. And I realized as I've hung out with people like Tucker in my life, and a couple of my new friends, I have this new friend named Emma and then a new one named Eli. And these white friends that I do have, they're very kind, very fun to talk to, and they're not at all racist or homophobic. They're very accepting. And I'm like, that's the kind of stuff that I need to shake my world up, to make me be like, oh, you know what, that's actually not nice. No, that's actually not true. So that's the stuff I kind of need to have. So I'm very grateful for those friends. And they were the right people I met at the right time too. But I'm also very grateful they're not like right-leaning people, because I've had that issue too, where I'm really nervous to meet somebody right-leaning and know about it too late. And again, people's politics is their business, but I also feel like there's no way, to some degree, somebody like super on the right would ever 100% respect me in all facets and completely say that and completely show love to me in the right way. Like, I'm sorry, like, you don't have to agree on everything, and you don't even have to have the perfect set of politics, but we have to see eye to eye in the sense that, like, you're not going to be transphobic, you're not going to be misogynistic, you're definitely not going to be homophobic, and not racist either. Like, those, I feel like that's fair. I feel like, call me crazy, I think that's fair. I think that's fair to set that boundary where I'm like, if you want to be my friend or you want to be somebody that I have in my life, you can't be any of those four things. If you're any of those four things and I call you out on it and then you decide that it's not worth it, I'm just not going to hang out with you like that. And I think that's fair. I think that's a fair boundary. Now, again, I'm not saying make assumptions. Use your own judgment before you ever get to that point. Don't assume that somebody is those things. Give them time to confirm that they are those things or one of those things, and then you make a decision for yourself, but don't assume. So, yeah, with the politics and hearing about it every day, especially with the trans thing, really got to me, because a lot of people in my life don't know, especially the people that I work with, they don't know that I'm LGBT. Maybe some of them do know, but they don't say anything. But a lot of people don't know that about me. Some of you might feel like, oh, but I always knew my gaydar is on point. Well, a lot of people's gaydars suck. I'm going to tell you that right now. So that's just been one of my things. Like, I have a hard time when it comes to making male friends sometimes. I probably should elaborate into that more. I don't know. I'll probably do another video. I don't know. But I mean, I just have a hard time making, when it comes to making friends, because part of it is the politics also, because I have to kind of see where you stand on that. And I don't feel like you have to really sometimes go too deep on that. I feel like you can kind of just know based on what your base needs and wants are. If it fits, and it fits. And that's all I gotta say. So another thing I want to talk about too, so my boss for one of my jobs, he recently talked to me, and she was telling me that she was upset with a coworker for calling out, and she was just venting to me, basically. My coworker called out last minute, and she was gonna ask me if I could do a morning shift, but I told her, I have training in the morning for another job, so I can't do it. But yeah, I was gonna tell her basically she was just venting to me on the phone, but she called me to ask if I could cover a shift, but I just couldn't do it because I had training in the morning from 8 to 4. But basically she was telling me, she was kind of telling me, why do people call off so much on this job, and that, you're supposed to really alert me if you know you have a shift. Which I do kind of agree with her on, and I do get her frustration, because also she's an operations manager that manages these sites and has to also basically be in charge of the site's needs and stuff, and have staff that can handle working at that site. The problem though is that she has to get people to fill these sites basically and go to them, and sometimes these reliefs or these people that are supposed to cover the shift don't always come. Sometimes they pick and choose when they want to come, and a lot of people also sometimes have stuff going on in their life, and they have stuff that comes up last minute, so they can't always just not go to work or not really. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm like getting ahead of myself. They can't always get to their job because they have something they have to handle. And the thing with this particular company, she doesn't have that many floaters. So when it comes to having people that are going to go to the site, she doesn't have that many. I think she only had like maybe 10 or 11 floaters. I don't know if she has more now. She's supposed to hire more people, but it's really bad. Like she really doesn't have that many floaters. She has maybe a couple people doing the overnights, maybe a lot of people doing overnights. I don't know. It's just a lot of like different floaters that can do different stuff. So she doesn't have that many people that can do these shifts like that. So what ends up happening is that people like get moved to different sites or can't really do certain stuff, and these permanent workers that work at these sites, their hands are kind of tied behind their back because they can't really call out, and they also have like blockout dates of which and when they can't call out. So it's very difficult for these particular people to even be able to really call out properly. They got to do like call out like on a form, and I think they got to send it to HR or tell her about it. I don't know. Like she has to approve their PTO, something like that. So it's very hard for people to kind of call out. So that doesn't help either. So as you can imagine, it's a lot of stress because the operations manager has to be able to come up with a worker that can come to these sites on time and make it. And if not, then the account is at risk, and then she could lose the contract altogether, which is not good. So then there's also that. And then there's like a lot of people that like also don't really like her. Because a lot of people sometimes with these jobs, I feel like they take things very personally, which I can't blame them. Because I mean, if you're working, right, and say like you've done your 8 hours, you want to go home for the day, right? You can't leave because you have to wait for your relief. But then your relief decides they don't want to show up. And your boss can't cover the shift for you because she's the only person who runs the district in the area. So what happens is that you're stranded at the site for, again, another 8 hours. And you have to do like a double. That's not fun for anybody. Nobody wants to do a double. A double, or not a double at a job like that where they got to be at a site all day. I wouldn't want to do it. It's not easy. Not for most sites. I've done it for like one site for one of my jobs because it was a very easy site. Other than that, I wouldn't have wanted to do it. But typically, I have no problem. I mean, typically I wouldn't really want to do a double. I just wouldn't. It's too much. Especially off of an overnight. It would be one thing. If it was like 7 to 11 p.m., I wouldn't mind it. But overnight into the morning, like from overnight to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, not really my style. Don't want to do that. I prefer something else. But that's just how I feel about it. But yeah, I understand, like, while she's venting, also, I mean, realistically, people have lives and people can't always just do the shift that you want, or you can't always have people cover for everything, so it's kind of complicated. And then also, she just has trouble just filling different sites with their needs, with their shifts that they need to do. And the other thing people have said that she doesn't always advocate for what people want, and she sometimes ignores texts sometimes. And again, kind of like what I said in the friendship section of this video, I understand, you know, with managers, sometimes they don't really be wanting to answer their phone, or friends, they don't answer their phone because they got different things. But with managers, it's like you have a lot more going on, and, you know, you kind of got to, you have this site to attend to, and then you got that site to attend to, and then you're kind of on the road because the operations manager, like, you kind of have to have a car. You got to be able to drive everywhere. So it's just one of those things, it's like you have a lot, like, at stake. It's a very hard job, and it's one of those jobs I do not want. If you want something easy going, don't be an operations manager. But honestly, how I feel about her, I mean, she's very kind to me. Like, I don't really have a problem with her. Has a very nice, soft-spoken voice, and she's very, you know, straightforward. Doesn't micromanage like that. And one thing about managers, usually if they have to micromanage somebody, it's usually because somebody on their back saying you have to do these things or you're fired. So it's not something that like I always or usually get offended by. It might feel like it in the moment, like if a manager's coming down to me about something, I'm like I be feeling some kind of way. But when you get past it, it's really not their fault. Like they have to do their job because they have somebody on behind them that's saying you have to do this thing, you have to do this, or you're fired. And that's typically what happens. So that's why people sometimes like have this mindset. They're like, oh, I can't stand her. She doesn't grant me PTO. She can't give you, because people also got to understand the reason she's not granting you the PTO. The reason she's not granting you the PTO is because she has to get coverage for that site. And if she doesn't get coverage for the site, then she's kind of screwed. And that person has to basically sit there. So if the person leaves the site unattended and then gets fired, that's really bad. And that's what happened at one of my sites. Like a person left the site and then got fired. Let me see something for a second. Hold on. And as a result, they got rid of her and she didn't come back. And then I covered her shift. And yeah, that's just how these security jobs go. Like you just have to just make sure like you stay at the desk until the person comes. But honestly, I get it. Nobody wants to stay at a desk. Like even for me on overnights, I would be angry if I had to stay at the desk until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because that's happened to me one time in my life. I had to work an 18-hour shift at like an old job, and I had to stay there till they got there, or I would have been fired. And I didn't want to be fired. I wanted to keep my job because that money was freaking good. I didn't want to lose out on that money, so I took that shit seriously. But that's what I'm saying. Like it's stuff like that. You're just gonna have you just gotta do it. I know it sucks. I know you got stuff you got to do, but you have to do it if you want to keep that job. I hate to say, for the most part. Only thing I would recommend is find another job. But yeah, I mean, just for her, I just would say, like, I guess do better with like trying to just advocate for your employees more. Like things happen at these sites, but I feel like these sites it's just not permanent. Because the thing with these sites, like you work at them, and again, it's an easy job, but you have to deal with people ratting on you, telling on you, oh, you fell asleep in the bathroom for 2 hours or something, or like you fall asleep at the desk. It's like, who doesn't fall asleep at the desk? I mean, that's just going to happen, so it's going to be expected. But I know she knows that, so she knows, and she's even had conversations with people, and she's mentioned, like, yeah, don't fall asleep, don't do that. Because she doesn't just tell me that, she tells everybody that. Don't fall asleep at the desk, and don't leave the site unattended. And that's just her big thing, just don't leave the site unattended. Just make sure you're, like, at least at the desk in some form or fashion. So, yeah. I told her actually when she vented to me, like, I hope, you're taking care of yourself, because this is quite the job. I mean, you have quite the responsibility. You got to make sure the sites are attended to, that your employees are up to par. I mean, it's a big deal. So I hope she's taking care of herself. I wish her nothing but the best, and I hope that I can stay her employee for like a long time, hopefully. I know these jobs, and the thing with these jobs too, in general, they're just not stable. It's always somebody getting fired, somebody quitting, somebody getting tired of stuff and leaving. So, I hope I keep it, but I wouldn't be surprised if I didn't, because life happens. So yeah, and I think that's all I gotta say on this part. So I want to get into like the final part of this video, and that is talking about my career choice and possible pivoting. So I mentioned this in my last video, but a couple of things about my personality or my wants when it comes to like jobs in my career. I could be kind of lazy. I like things a slow pace. Fast-paced environments do tend to make me kind of anxious and kind of have to make me exhaust my body too easily. Like I get burnt out too easily on a fast-paced environment. There was a site that I worked at recently that I talked about that I didn't like, and that site is very fast paced. Like, you have to always have your head in a swivel. You have to be looking everywhere. You have to be doing everything every which way. You have to be alert, and it's just very hard. It's not easy doing that. Jobs like that stress me out because I can't really relax. Like, I'm a person that potentially has autism, and I just get burnt out so easily. I be wanting to learn certain stuff, but I can't take my time to learn certain stuff or really understand why it's important. So it's like I end up burning myself out. And these jobs that are fast paced, you don't really have time to really take anything. Like, you don't really have time for anything to be trial and error. You kind of got to get it, understand it like now. And my thing is, for my career, my dream job in HR, I'm starting to realize that it might possibly, if done in the way that I think it's going to be done, will not be a good career choice for me. Stuff about HR that I think would go against my personality. The office politics, having to know the policies in and out, and having to punish people that you actually like. I'm a person where I'm like, I would not want to fire my friend. I would not want to fire somebody just because upper management told me to. I would hate to have to do that. I wouldn't want to be in charge of hiring and firing. Processing the termination might be better, but that's different than calling someone up and being like, you're terminated or something. Like, I don't want to do stuff like that, and I probably wouldn't want to touch anything like that. I feel like I value a job that's more slower paced, because it's like, at least if I make mistakes, at least if I do something wrong, I have cushioning to be like, okay, yeah, you made a mistake, but this is fixable. You're not killing anybody. Or K1 double hockey sticks ing anybody over it just because. And that's like a reality I had to deal with. I had to like really face. And part of why I came to this decision was because of having a conversation with somebody in my career development course with my professor, because she really like talked to me. Because I talked to her about it. I was like, oh, I know you had a HR certification, and one of the things I've been struggling with, like as far as HR, is finding jobs for it. Like, even when I searched for my internship for the summer, I couldn't find any HR stuff. I mean, I found 9 of them, but none of them hit me up for the most part. I got interviews with like 4 of them, but no offers for any HR jobs. I was only able to find one job, and it was not HR. It was the only job, and the reason I kind of like wanted to turn it down was because the job had a really bad pay distribution in my eyes. Like, you got paid $2,000 every month for working in that month, but it wasn't like it was $2,000 every week or every 2 weeks. Like, it was $2,000 for like a whole month. With the 2 jobs I have now, I could make $2,000, more than $2,000 in a month. That's not hard to do. So to earn that in like only for a month is really bad, especially because I have to be at this job for 40 hours. But the good part though, I get 3 in-office days and then 2 remote days. They call them telehealth, but they don't really like calling it remote. But it's 2 telehealth days, so it's like 2 remote days and 3 in-office days. And to me, that's like very sweet. I actually wouldn't mind it. That's like kind of good, to be honest with you. And it works perfectly with my floater schedule because I work a lot of days. But there's some weeks where like I don't work so much, so like that would help a lot. So like no matter what, I'm still earning money as I'm doing my jobs. So kind of works hand in hand, so I'm like, I'm not really mad at it. But that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's just stuff like that, that's nice to have, but you don't always get. So yeah. Sorry, voice crack. So yeah, it's just like HR, and that job sounds more peaceful too. Even when I interviewed for it too, like it sounded like the woman actually wanted to hire me. Like, I feel like when I interviewed with the people for the HR positions, it's like they were so transactional, one of them, you didn't even really talk to anybody. It was like you just did the interview, and it was kind of this, like, not a Zoom call. Like, you record your face when you do the interview. Like, you record yourself talking, you say the answers, but it's like you don't really interact with the person that's interviewing you. Like, they just have to see this footage and then decide if they want to hire you or not. And I don't think that's just not very helpful to me. Like, I feel like I do better when, like, I'm with a person in person than when I'm, like, on a Zoom call, or when I'm doing something transactional, like having my face recorded. It doesn't work as well. So something that I really am looking forward to doing at some point in time, because I think it's better for me to do I can't speak. It's better for me to do this now as opposed to later on when I'm deep in my career, where I'm like, you know what, I freaking hate it here. Because more often than not, I mean, let's be honest, like, a lot of people that I guess go to school that have the dream job end up hating it. And my thing is, I don't want to just get a job because it pays me well. Like, that's nice, but I have to want to do the job. And I feel like if I don't want to do the job, I'm not going to feel confident about it anymore, and I'm going to end up hating it, and therefore I'm going to perform very badly. And I've been there where I've hated my job and I didn't really want to do shit, and it resulted in me, like, people talking about me, and then I've had to figure out, what do I want to do? How am I going to get out of here? And that translates to when I get my real full-time job. Like, I don't want to be, that person that doesn't do their job. Like, I want to be somebody that, like, does his job well and enjoys it. Now, I'm not saying that my job always has to be fun. It doesn't always have to be fun, but, like, I want to enjoy it. And something like HR, I feel like, while I am an extrovert, while I do love talking to people, while I can handle socialization, on a long-term basis, that would work against me. Because anything that you do for work that you enjoy, or that anything that, like, you like, that you end up doing for work, you end up not enjoying it because you have to do it. And what happens when you have to do it? Like, you don't want to do it anymore, and it ends up not becoming fun. And I don't want to be at that point. And HR, I'm grateful. I learned a lot of things about HR. I know every department in and out. I know some of, like, the rules. I know maybe a couple of the laws, not too many because I'm not super knowledgeable, but I even made, like, a whole HR binder learning about the different departments, learning about what departments fit me. I would avoid payroll at all costs, because I'm not good at math. Anything like that, I just avoid that stuff. But it's just like, I don't know if this is, like, really the right fit for me. So I'm gonna have to have a conversation with the career counselor at my school to see what I can do about this. Because again, once I get in this career, and once I graduate from college, I have to pay those student loans back. And I want to make sure that I land a job that's really well paying, that's stable. And by stable, I mean, like, I don't have to deal with getting laid off. Because that was another problem with HR jobs too. A lot of people get laid off constantly, or end up getting fired for every reason. And it's like, I don't want that to be me. I want to be able to know that I'm keeping my job. And then income is another thing too. Income-wise, I have to be able to, and again, I know, like, it ain't realistic to be making six figures. I get it. Fully on board with that. But I need to be making a certain type of income when I do these jobs. I can't be earning, I don't think it's really appropriate for me to be earning like 40, 50K. I want to aim for like the 70 to 90K range. It doesn't even have to be that exact range. It could be maybe 60, 65. I'm fine with that as long as I know I'm not earning a super small amount of money and it's my salary. That's all that matters for me. And it's something that I know I'm going to love and enjoy long term, and that I won't be having to deal with getting fired from. And that's why I would like, and again, could this be unrealistic? I don't know. But I would like a remote job in the future where I only deal with, like, my stuff at home. Nobody's watching me too much. Like, when I do these desk jobs, I'm always being watched. Everything I do is being watched. Everything, like, from the moment I clock in to the moment I clock out, all that's being watched. All that is being watched as I'm on the clock. So it's an easy job, but again, it's like I'm being watched so much, so it's like I don't really. I feel like I have people have more ammunition to report me for something if something goes wrong. Like this particular night, I didn't do anything. I didn't move around. I didn't like cause no trouble. But it's like it's some nights I be tired, and then it's like I be wanting to fall asleep, and I can't do that all the time. Like I gotta be able to do my job. But by nature, by the way the job is designed, you don't really get any liberty or any autonomy with that. And that's a good example of like one of the things that I look for in my future career. You know, I want a job. And again, maybe it doesn't have to be super duper easy, like anybody can do it type easy, but like easy to where I know it enough. I get liberty with like as far as not knowing certain stuff, but learning it over time and getting better at it. I do better with that. I like that kind of stuff. I can handle that. I can handle making mistakes and learning from it and then doing better and then trying to, trial and error. I can handle not having a super rigid schedule and maybe having like, remote work, maybe even having 2 days remote, 3 days in office. I'm actually fine with that schedule. That schedule works perfect with me. I wouldn't mind that because let's be honest, like having to travel, and that's an important thing too, with your choices of career, having to travel to these jobs or traveling anywhere is a lot of work. Traveling is not fun. It's bad enough I have to like go to a job and deal with people, but traveling takes up so much of my day. And for some people, they might be traveling 2 hours to the job, some even more than that. And I'm like, I don't know how somebody does. That's a lot of travel time. I don't know about you. I don't know when I'll get a car, but if and when I do, I am not driving. I'm not driving for no damn 2 hours. I'm sorry. Because traffic is a real thing. And I don't know much. I don't know the feeling about how bad traffic is, but a lot of people that I know of that have traveled to their jobs or have traveled downtown for jobs or have traveled to like the suburbs for jobs from the hood, they hate doing it. It's not fun. They don't like it. Traveling is not fun for them. As far as like driving long distances to work. So that's a big deal to me. So I don't want to be a person where like I have to travel so far to work, but then also like I don't have to travel every day to work. Like I wouldn't mind if it's 2 days, 2 or 3 days in office and then a couple days like that at work from home. Cause that's a really solid schedule to work with. I don't mind that. That's better than just traveling 5 days straight to work. Gotta travel in the morning, 9 to 5 p.m. You're tired, you're drained, you gotta deal with people all day. And again, what I mentioned earlier, dealing with people, again, as social as I am, if I have to deal with people all day, every day in that fast-paced environment where I also gotta learn laws in and out, I gotta learn what's against the rules in it now, I gotta learn how to do paperwork, like, that stuff can be manageable. I can do it. I can adapt to doing it. But is it something that, like, I would want to do long term? And is it right for me? Like, no, I probably would end up hating it. And I'm going to be really honest with you. It might be the type of shit that would make me want to K1 double hockey sticks myself. And if you know what I know, you know. And if you know it, you know it. Then you know what I'm saying. So I take that very seriously, Those are things that I'm like, I have to be honest with myself. I have to look within my soul and say, is this the right fit for me? Just because I can do it and I can learn to do it, is it the right fit for me? And I have to say, like, probably not, or maybe I don't know. But it's ranging more in the probably not category than it is the maybe I don't know. Because HR as a whole, it just isn't very stable. Like, people get laid off, people get fired, jobs decide they want to lay off employees. That happens more often than not. And, I'm not saying that can't happen to me if I choose a new career choice, but it's just like, I don't know. I find this economy to be very flimsy and not very stable. So, yeah, just to recap everything I've said, stability, slow-paced environment, well, maybe income. I feel like income's more important to me. But actually, no. Income is important to me, but no, a happier environment, I think, ends up being more important. So, stability with the job, because, yeah, you can have the income, you can have the low income, but, like, how stable is the job for you? Like, how easily can you keep the job? after you've acquired it is the big thing. Like, can you keep it for several years, or can you just keep it for 6 months or to a year? Like, how stable is it? So that's important too. Slow paced environment, a really big thing for me, because fast paced environments throw me off. Slow paced remote work, I'd say, probably be like my thing, my top two. And then the income, because I want to earn a good amount of income. I want to be able to do all that, like have a good income, and possibly make six figures. But just know a lot of people in America do not make six figures, and it's a hard amount to achieve. And I haven't added this as like my number four. Hold on. Number four, I mean, kind of number three, but number four is autonomy. I like being able to do things my own way. Slow pace is nice too, but like also just being able to do things like kind of my own way, kind of like have my own schedule, because again, I'm very lazy. On this team project that I recently did at my school, I was a terrible team partner. I waited till the last minute to do my side of the project, and I didn't even give it my all. I literally AI'd the shit, so it wasn't even like my all, to be honest with you. So I'm a very like lazy person. I like to take my pace with stuff. I can work hard. That's not hard. I that's not impossible of me. I can work hard, but being able to take my own pacing with things is something that I value so much. So just being able to do anything at my own pace is something that like I really appreciate doing. So yeah, that's just a big thing for me, just having my own pacing, but like also my own autonomy with my schedule. Like I can work whenever, almost whenever. I would love that. I'd say that's more like the lower end, because I feel like that's not as realistic as maybe the order in which I place the other three. So stability, having my own slow pace, high income essentially, and then own autonomy, I think are like my top four. If I want to add like a fifth one, I would say being able to get along with my manager as well. Another thing for me that I think is also important, my manager or having a good team. I think it's another thing that I find important. I guess I call it a sense of community with my own coworkers. Like and one of, I guess, my toxic traits, if you will, or whatever, I feel like when I go to work, I don't just want to go to work. I want to be able to make friends and do stuff. Call it crazy or whatever, but that's just something I want to do. And I feel like when people get along with me, or when people are extroverted with me, like it does shock me sometimes, but again, those are the things like I would like at a job. I would like for people to like want to talk with me or want to get to know me, but it not feel weird. Because I feel like a part of me sometimes when people do that, I feel like it's like, okay, what's really your motives here type stuff. But if it's like very genuine and they like talking to me and it's not really an issue, I don't mind it actually. I don't mind people talking with me. I don't mind it. But that's just how it is. That's just stuff that I really would want at a job. So, yeah, my current aspirations for HR, I feel like were not very successful overall. I felt like when it came to getting the support that I needed as far as learning about the job, I felt like I got next to nothing about it. And I've also failed to get any mentors that actually would talk about the job, and that didn't really help either. And I also feel like my personality and the things that I want out of like this HR job or whatever it looks like, preferably in talent acquisition, like in recruitment strategy, which I'm also gonna get another thing about that. I don't think they really mesh with each other too well, so that's why I feel like it's best that I stray away from it and find something different. And then lastly, I mentioned the talent acquisition thing about HR. So the thing about talent acquisition is that it's very sales based. So you have to meet a quota and meet like a rate of how you hire people. You have to figure out how you're going to hire these people, and these people have to want the job. Sometimes it can be kind of hard, because if your job is not providing the salary expectations that the person you're interviewing like wants, they might dip, they might leave, and then you've got people breathing down your back, hiring managers breathing down your back about why you can't hire this person. So or why you're not getting any hires. And that's like a lot of stress. And I think that's kind of like, I mean, that's kind of like my number two thing, because it's like slow paced environment, but low stress. I guess kind of same thing. I don't know how you want to place it, but it's like those are my things. I'm like, those are the things that again don't mix well with me, because I have to be honest. Like again, it's a job, right? So you do your job, you go home. But my thing is, you want your job to be peaceful, and you want it to be something that you can do and enjoy, and something that, like, you know, again, you can look at with pride. Like, I would like, it's cool to make six figures, but like, what if I hate the way I make six figures? Like, that matters to somebody. Like, you're making six figures, but you have to do it with like 10,000 employees, and you have to always write people up and terminate them and reprimand people. Like, that kind of job is stressful. That's not fun. Honestly, it's not a fun job. So that's just something, you know, I have to consider if I ever want to go into HR, but I might phase into something different. I don't know. If you guys have any like career choices to recommend that fit my personality and the things I mentioned, please let me know. I would love to hear your feedback. I know you guys aren't career coaches or anything like that, but I would honestly love to hear your feedback about those things. Please let me know, and I'll respond. I respond to all my comments, but that is all for this video. I've talked for like an hour. This is not short at all, but I had a lot to say. But I'm glad I put it into two parts because I gave you earful. Thank you for hearing what I have to say. Damien the Max out. Love you. Bye.